I welcome you all back to our show. Usually, we don't do an introduction because we do a cold start. Our audiences know. We do a start where we are already talking to the participant, and the show opens in between. But this is a special show, and we have a special guest on today. I have a counterpart, a journalist, Yawen. She's a radio journalist at CGTN, and she covers international affairs. And today we're going to do a movie review, and it's of a movie called Death to Rights. Yavin, for the very first time, I welcome you on the show. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much, Ali, for having me. It's a great pleasure joining you to discuss this important movie. Very looking forward.
I'm very thankful that you introduced me to this movie. I just sat down and saw all the trailers that I could, and amazing movie shot. It's in a backdrop of World War II happening in behind, and all the people who love wartime movies. This is like a scale done on a magnanimous way. The sets, the screens, the people, the makeup, the costumes, everything was done on such a big scale. And then I went through the reviews as well, and
Yeah,
there was this one review that kept coming again and again. That review was that this is a 10 out of 10 movie that I don't want to see again. It was so realistic. It tells a true story uh, at what happened, what were the war crimes that the Japanese conducted in China. Yawin, I want you to take it over from here. Just explain to us what the storyline is. I believe it's about photographers who actually documented the entire thing. So please just walk us through first the
yes,
storyline, then we'll catch up from there.
sure. So, as you said, Ali, this is the movie based on real historical stories. So, That to Rights, it was directed by the Chinese film director Shen Ao and tells the true story of Chinese civilians who risks their lives to preserve photographic evidence of Japanese war crimes during the Second World War when Japan occupied Nanjing, which was then the capital of China from 1912 to 1949. So in the movie, a Japanese military cameraman brings film negatives to a local studio to be developed. While processing the film, the main director, Ah Chang, he is actually a postman in the movie who posed as the photo developer to survive under Japanese occupation, discovers that those photos, like photo evidence of Japan's war crimes, and they include those horrifying images of a massive killing of Chinese civilians, including seniors and infants, and also prisoners of wars, as well as rapes, looting, and other brutalities. So Ah Chang, the main director, and the family who own the photo studio make this very bold decisions to secretly copy the film roll containing these images and smuggle them out of Nanjing. So, in real history, those photos were later used as legal evidence at the International Military Tribunal and helping to convict those who committed war crimes and allowing the world to witness the atrocities committed by Japanese fascism. Because in the history, when Japan occupied Nanjing, and they did a lot of horrible things, but they still know how to correct how to do the propaganda. So they would ask civilians to dress up nicely and ask children to come around to set up for posts like handing out sugars, candies, or other food necessities to civilians and took a photo of them, which were fake, only used for sending the pictures back to Japan and to tell the international arena that they're actually treating civilians' lives in Nanjing, which is totally not true. So those photo evidence, because of these brave people, they secretly smuggled them out of Nanjing, let the international community know what's really happening in Nanjing, which helped to help the Allies to unite it and stop the atrocity. So the historical documents show that from 1931 to 1945, which were the 14 years when Chinese people fight against the Japanese aggression, Japan waged this brutal war of aggression across the China, committing crimes against the humanity in dozens of cities. Nanjing is just one of them. And about 35 million Chinese civilians and soldiers lost their lives. Is the highest number during the entire World War II. And the Nanjing Massacre, which began in December 1937, saw over 300,000 civilians and surrendered soldiers killed. So this movie, Dead to Rise, has reached, since it was released about 2 weeks ago, it has reached over 60 million viewers in China. And since August the 7th, the film has started showing Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, America, and also surrounding Asian countries like Malaysia and Singapore. It's working to be released in Russia, South Korea, the UK, Germany, France, and so on. So I think it is a great chance for people who in those countries can go to the theater and to take a look at this forgotten part of the history, because we need to remember it to prevent it from happening again.
This year also marks the 80th year for this massacre.
Well, actually, it marks um, the 80 years since Chinese people, the massacre happened in 1937, as I said. So this year marks the 80th anniversary of Chinese people's uh, um, war of resistance against the Japanese aggression. So that's
Okay, that's
that's
why.
another actually, yeah, that's why this is very significant. It's been 80 years since Japan conducted those war crimes. Yeah.
I've been also looking through news reports, and I saw that the entire set has been converted into sort of a museum,
Mhm.
sort of a thing that people can walk in, walk through the set. And there's also that photo booth, that photo shop. In the movie, it has been destroyed, but
Mhm.
in that set, it has been reconstructed for people to come in and see how it was done. So the saddening part was to World War II has always been remembered as something very bad that happened in Europe. This movie sheds light on what was happening on the far east side and how the media, and even we call books even media, it's a sort of media, a source of media. Even those people could not help covering these things. And when such a movie comes out, it's very eye opening for the public, especially people who go through history. So tell us about that. How do you look at this when people talk about World War II and the atrocities happening in Europe, and not talking about what happened in Nanjing?
Thank you for asking this question. This is very important to be addressed. You know, during my latest program, we talk about this issue as well. Why, when we discuss the history of the Second World War, we normally, like especially in the Western country, is more commonly know about the D-Day, Normandy invasion. But why not? We're not talking spot like discussing enough about China's contribution at the Eastern battlefield, because as I just previously mentioned, China has, because of the 14 years of Chinese people's fight against the Japanese aggression, it has attached over 60% of Japanese forces, so that those Japanese fascism, they do not have enough, I'll say, um, forces to occupy other parts of Asian countries or other parts of the Pacific Islands. Don't get me wrong, Japan did not only invaded China back in the 1930s, but also had conducted many um, atrocities, say in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Philippines, also in other Pacific Island nations. It was also underreported as well. So during my show, the media chats, I had one of the guests. He's from America, and he told me that it was because in America they don't have like the history. They often portray America as the savior of the say the eastern battlefield. They overlooked Chinese people's own fighting against Japanese fascism because their history books or media coverage do not normally cover that enough to educate people enough to let them know about the true story. So I got really kind of pissed when with when I saw comments like this. When I post a show on my YouTube or Twitter page, there will be Western people say, "Oh, it was America saved China back in World War II." I was like, "Excuse me," but then I pause for a second. I would say, okay, that's the widespread issue in the Western country because they were unaware of China's huge contribution to the global anti-fascist war during the Second World War. So I think first, those say that China was saved by anyone just simplifies the reality of this this fight, Chinese people's fight against the Japanese expansion for 14 years. So because of that, Japan was not able to dominate the Pacific. As I mentioned, 1931, China was the first country to fight fascism because Japan invaded China in 1931. Um, that was the September 18 incident. So then the whole country, then the escalation into full war in 1937. So for years, China bore like the China fights Japan alone and tiding down over 60% of Japan's army. And despite it had failed during those times, but it never gave up. And then another thing is that the persistent resistance not only hindered Japan's ability to advance, but also prevent the diversion of more troops to the Pacific front, um, gave our allies, the US, the Soviet Union, time to counter offensives. And second is that I think when people have this kind of saying that the US saved China just simply undermines the sacrifices of millions of the Chinese people. From the Battle of Shanghai, which happened in 1937, to the Battle of Taiyuan, like countless soldiers and civilians gave their lives defending the country. And then we know, yes, US did provide aids, such as the Flying Tigers, to help China fight Japanese aggression. That was part of the collaborative anti-fascist effort, but not a one-sided aid or help. China's own resistance helped a lot to ensure that victory, make that victory possible. So I think that's an important lesson, an important message we need to share with other countries or people who are not very familiar with the history. So China, yes, China needs help, but it fought by itself, and also doing so helped save all of like helped to contribute to the global fight against the fascism. So it cannot be downplayed. It will be an insult to history and to the millions who sacrificed their lives to guarantee this victory.
This movie not only opens this door to history, but also this movie opens doors to what kind of cinematic work is being done in China. It is big, it is so realistic. The lights, the sets, as I said earlier, the
Mm,
makeup, the screenplay, it is just amazing what cinemas are doing in China. Just walk us through the production. Who
mhm.
is this producer director? Is this a very known guy? Who are these people? Are do they have superstars in this movie, or do they have new casts? Just walk us through the production if you can.
Sure. As I earlier mentioned, the film director is named Shen Nao, and there are a few other very senior. There, the popular movie star Liu Haoran, who plays the main role as the postman, who pretends to be a photo developer. And also, there are two other main directors who are the owner of the photo studio. They are also very, I'll say, excellent actor and actress, played, very impressive the role in the movie. And actually, Ali, other than this Dead to Rise film, uh, last week, can I talk about this? There is another film coming out, was released, also is part of this collective efforts to tell the wartime story happened during the World War II here in Asia. It's called Dongji Rescue. So this is another film that is also known as Dongji Island. So it's another film based on real story back in 1942, the Lisbon Maru incident. That there is the documentary film about that incident.
Yeah, what is that
I'm not
incident?
sure if you
If
have
you could
heard about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, walk us through the incident first, then
Yes,
we'll talk about the
sure.
movie. Yeah.
Sure. So it's about like where Chinese fishermen from the Dongji Island helped to save British prisoners of war from a sinking Japanese ship. So the movie pretty much tells like during when that happens, the Japanese cargo ship is Lisbon Maru. It was illegally transforming over nearly 2,000 British prisoner of wars from Hong Kong to Japan for forced labor. And the ship was torpedoed by a US submarine near the Dongji Island, where it is located in Zhejiang province of China today. And after being mistaken for a warship, so instead of rescuing those people, right, the Japanese soldiers, they locked them in the ship's hold and start fighting to like shooting guns to those who try to escape. So under that background, nearly 200 Chinese fishermen from Dongji Island, they decided to save those British soldiers from the Japanese gunfire. And eventually they saved nearly 400 people and hiding them in the mountains and also sharing with them food and other necessities, even though themselves don't have much left. So that's pretty much the background story of the documentary film of the incident. And the Dongji Island rescue just based on the historical fact remake this story. Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds like a very cinematic film as well. The rescue movies, most of the rescue movies are very action-packed movies, which can be short. And I also saw the
Mm,
trailer of this movie as well, and I thought that it was a beautifully shot movie. So it's actually exciting to hear heroic stuff that has never been documented ever, and
mm.
then been being translated into a movie onto the big screen. It gives it puts on a it has an effect. It has a big effect on the world.
Yes, actually, I think the message here is not only about the movie, it's about shared humanity during war times. So it shows how selflessness those Chinese fishermen was during that difficult time. they had no weapons and they did not get training like soldiers, but they only believe that if there's someone in the sea, you need to save them. That's their motto, a moral like belief when that incident happened. And also, I think it kind of have this sharp contrast to Japan's atrocities. Like it, the director also aims to show this, like how we need to counter the historical revisionism, because we know today Japanese government, they continues to downplay those war crimes in their textbooks, in their media, um, and their attitude towards the historical um, issues or historical war crimes remains deeply disappointing to China and also to other victims who suffered from Japan's invasion. So instead of acknowledging, apologizing, they just attempting to whitewash those history. So I think that's just not that. That's why nowadays, whenever like Chinese people they brought up this Nanjing massacre, they will be very very angry about it. It's not because we're still attached to that. Yes, we do. We still feel deeply, woodened of what happened in history. But what hurts Chinese people and also those victims from the Japan's atrocity is because their attitude today, especially when we hear news about some Japanese officials that visited this so-called Yasukuni Shrine. That's the place where commemorates over 1,000 convicted war crimes from the Second World War in Japan, and including those military soldiers who participated in the Nanjing Massacre. So that's just not acceptable for Chinese people because you worship them. What message are you sending to us, right? So that's just something we cannot accept.
Tell us more about the production of this movie. Is this the famous director, or are these new people? What about the actors and actresses?
Oh yeah, sure. So the Dongji Rescue, it was directed by Hu. He's a very famous, well-known film director here in China. He
Okay.
has produced a few other very well-known films. And I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but I saw the trailer as you did, and the actors they were also very skilled, professional actors and actresses. One of them I really like is called Nini. She performed as one of the villagers, and because of her speech, kind of encouraged and promoted the fishermen to bravely fight against the Japanese soldiers to save those British prisoner of wars. Yeah, so very looking forward to go back to the theater and watch the rescue, Dongji Rescue.